Well, I'm going to take another try at doing this without losing my temper. This is Forrest Poston, WVU football going deep. Although today we're not talking football, we're talking Bob Huggins. I've been, at least in terms of this channel, avoiding mostly the Huggins issue, even when the donors started fighting in public. But Huggins did this interview with KDKA. It's in two parts, totals a little over 6 minutes, which is quite a bit for a nightly news program. And it's getting mentioned and online, but not really discussed. And there are a number of things people aren't talking about at all, and that kind of bugs me. Now, I will say I'm not a Huggins fan, never have been, didn't want him hired to begin with, but I'm just going to try to be objective about this. It is not a question of whether he is a good basketball coach or bad basketball coach. And it's not a question of whether he is a good person or a bad person. It is a question of what he has done, what he and others are doing, and how they are approaching the entire situation, even now, and particularly with the timing here as the school tries to hire a new coach. Let's say one of the first things I thought less than a minute into watching the interview is that it's a paid ad. This is not, as far as I can tell, something the station just decided to do to take a look at Bob Huggins. I really think they should have run a thing afterwards that said, this ad paid for by the Rehire Bob Huggins Committee. Or the way they presented it, it was kind of like, the Re-Anoint Huggins Committee. One section of the interview just focused almost entirely on Huggins as this marvelous fundraiser for charities and, raising money for the facilities at WVU. And it was, let us say it was not complete, objective, and unbiased. It was over the top on just how much good Huggins has done. And then the other section, they talked about the drinking and some other issues. And Huggins said that he is not an alcoholic. Is that a true statement? I'm not qualified to give an expert opinion. I don't believe it is true based on what he has done. And I have not researched alcoholism, but it doesn't really seem to be that much of a question. But Huggins says that he's not an alcoholic because he doesn't drink a fifth when he gets home, and he never drank every day. And he specifies that that is his definition of an alcoholic. But is his definition of an alcoholic the one that should be used? I wouldn't think so. And he evidently was in rehab. Did they just dry him out and not discuss issues like what an alcoholic is, the many faces of alcoholism? I mean, his defense sounds like the things I would expect an alcoholic to say. Says he's just a social drinker. I mean, it reads like a script from a TV show practically. But now here for a moment, okay, let's say, well, they asked, okay, because they said, had the interview with the homophobic slurs and then the drunk driving arrest. And they asked, well, how can, people be sure there won't be a third strike? Now, first of all, this was a third strike because they neglected to include being fired from Cincinnati for drunk driving. So Huggins has had a lot of chances, and it appears that the underlying problem has been around for decades. That Huggins says it won't happen again because he won't let it happen again, and that he can pretty much make himself do what he wants. And again, of course, that seems to come under the heading of denial, but let's imagine that it's true. If Huggins can make himself do what he wants, then the radio interview and the homophobic slurs were choice, not influence from a disease. All of the actions and incidents leading up to and including the drunk driving arrest would then be choice, not a disease that had taken control and that he needed help for. That doesn't make things better. And he presented it as if, hey, this all being choice and just a mistake. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of the public has been saying on the boards when they say Huggins should just be given his job back. They say everybody makes mistakes. And they say it as if all mistakes are equal. Drunk driving, dialing the wrong number, they're just mistakes, and we should somehow overlook them. Or they say that, well, nobody was hurt, so the drunk driving doesn't really count as bad. Now, all of this is coming while the school is trying to hire a new coach, coming off of a really bad season where the players never managed to come together, and there appear to have been influences from Huggins that may have made things worse. And we still have this praise of Huggins, this denial, and all of the suggestions that somehow he should just be given his job back. And what does that tell us? Now, if I'm right about that interview being paid for, then it is an attempt by Huggins, donors, or somebody to redeem and whitewash Huggins. That tells me that they consider Bob Huggins to be the most important issue. They are not considering how this affects the basketball program, the school, the players, or the state. It is not good for any of those. Now, personally, I don't think it's good for Bob Huggins because I strongly suspect getting a coaching job would, just turn his health negative again, and his health has not been good for quite some time. He appears to be doing better while not coaching. The strain of coaching would almost certainly harm his health and, increase his drinking. Whether he's an alcoholic or not, it would likely increase the drinking. So, I don't really think this is good for anyone. But it appears to be an attempt to promote Bob Huggins above all else. That is not a good thing. All right. Some of you have probably unsubscribed by now because you're ticked off about what I said. If not, if you haven't subscribed and would like to, please subscribe, click thumbs up, make comments without profanity, preferably with some logic. And we do have spring camp coming up for football, so I'll be getting back to football soon. Thanks for dropping in and watching, and I will see you later.